Ward violence on the rise. The victim of a hospital stabbing speaks out. Images that will shock Melburnians. Why teenagers are running scared. The Facebook campaign to find a mate, and how this heritage-listed eyesore is giving everyone a headache.
This is 7 News with Peter Mitchell.
Good evening. There are serious concerns about security at Melbourne hospitals tonight after a Doncaster man was stabbed while visiting his wife. The frightening incident happened in a ward at Box Hill Hospital. Ben McNair is there, and Ben, this was an unprovoked attack.
It certainly was, Peter. Tony Zlatanovsky was visiting his wife in a ward here at Box Hill when he was set upon by another patient brandishing a pair of surgical clamps. It's an attack that's left the family feeling terrified and others asking serious questions about hospital safety. Jane Wood was recovering from surgery after having a miscarriage when her partner Tony was attacked.
He just lunged at Tony and he was just going like this on him.
Without warning, a patient who was sharing the ward tried to stab Tony in the neck and side. He says he's lucky he wasn't more seriously injured.
Could have had my son with me, holding him in my arm, and he could have stabbed him.
Police were called and the man was arrested. Jane says she had tried to warn staff that the man was dangerous.
And I said to her, I am scared of him. And she assured me at that time that he was unable to get to me because he was attached to tubes which were attached to the wall.
The hospital has refused to comment on camera, saying in a statement that they are aware of the incident and are investigating. Police were also called to Sunshine Hospital last night after a man suffering a gunshot wound tried to confront staff and then police.
He threatened the nurses and we were all taken out the back into lockdown.
There was kids screaming, yelling. It was pretty full on.
Despite the two violent incidents, the Department of Human Services won't intervene, saying each individual hospital is responsible for its own security. But that's little comfort to Jane and her family.
Something needs to be done to prevent this from happening again to somebody else.
Ben McNair, 7 News.
There's new evidence on why Melbourne teenagers fear authorities like police and ticket inspectors. Our investigations tried to find out who's really to blame for street crime and violence, and the results may surprise you.
The pictures are disturbing. Bruises allegedly caused by Victoria Police batons while the young man lay on a bed. His lawyer, Tamar Hopkins, has 65 cases of police abuse of young people on her books. Often, she says, the people are handcuffed.
We've got one case where a client reports that he was beaten to the point of unconsciousness inside a police cell. You know, that's what you describe as being torture, someone being beaten during interrogation.
A new report by advocacy group Youth Law has criticised police and ticket inspector handling of teenagers, accusing them of violence, aggression and racism. Police say they're working very hard in the community to improve relations with young people.
We don't step back from our responsibility to ensure that those matters are thoroughly investigated.
The report found the idea that young people are responsible for a crime wave on the streets is actually a myth. It's much more likely to be adults aged 25 to 30. While youth crimes against the person are down 3.3%, adult crimes against the person are up 5.1%. The research obtained exclusively by 7 News says ticket inspectors also mistreat teenagers.
They push people around. They just reckon because we're young, we're not going to buy a ticket.
They made girls from our school cry.
How does it make you feel that they treat young people in this way?
Scared.
The report found more than 70% of young people strongly agreed there was a problem with how ticket inspectors treated them. More than a third experienced intimidation, 35% rude or aggressive language, 1 in 5 was physically handled, and 13% faced racism.
There is mistreatment of young people, and at times those powers are abused.
Louise Milligan, 7 News.
More than 28,000 people have joined a Facebook site to help find a missing Shepparton man. He's described as popular and happy, and his family says his disappearance is completely out of character.
Tig and Leah should be celebrating Valentine's Day with high school sweetheart Andrew Crawford. Instead, she's making a plea for him to come home.
Really worried about him and Just to let someone know I just want him to know how much I love him, and whatever's happened, it doesn't matter.
The 23-year-old was last seen at his parents' Toolamba West home near Shepparton 8 days ago. Also missing his 2006 grey Holden Commodore sedan.
We just want him to know that we love him so much and it doesn't matter what he's done.
Andrew's last communication was a text to his girlfriend the day he disappeared. That mobile was today handed in to Shepparton Police.
We've got serious concerns for Andrew's welfare. This is completely out of character.
The phone was found by a trail bike rider in the Toolamba State Forest, an area Andrew is familiar with but is currently flood affected. Andrew had only just returned to Toolamba after studying in Melbourne, and in 10 days' time was about to start a new job with an engineering firm. He was also looking forward to playing country football again. His friends have set up a Facebook page with more than 28,000 people now on the lookout.
He loved me very much. He always let me know that.
Mia Greaves, 7 News.
A former Melbourne dentist has fronted the Supreme Court over his alleged claims he could help patients beat cancer. Consumer Affairs has taken the action, accusing him of giving false hope to some of our most vulnerable, the terminally ill.
He has no medical degree and no qualification in oncology. In fact, he's a dentist and no longer practising after being accused of misconduct. But for 15 years, Noel Campbell has treated those dying of cancer, and Consumer Affairs has now accused him of false and misleading conduct. While the website for Campbell's Hope Clinic now includes disclaimers, it's alleged to have previously said in the majority of cases its treatments lead to an extension of life, its ozone treatment kills cancer cells, and that the therapies offered have proven safe, gentle and effective at reversing and preventing cancer. The Hope Clinic is now run from Noel Campbell's home in Melbourne's north. He says all his treatments are backed up by peer-reviewed medical research. But an expert hired by Consumer Affairs has told the court it's unscientific, unsubstantiated and extremely unlikely to benefit patients. Noel Campbell admits most of his patients are already in stage 4 cancer who've been told there's no hope of a cure. Consumer Affairs says his claims are aimed at people in distress who are especially vulnerable to his deceptive and misleading practices. Noel Campbell says the Consumer Affairs action has breached his human rights and it should pay him damages. The trial continues. Laurel Irving, 7 News.
A young soldier killed in Afghanistan has been remembered as an ordinary hero acting to protect his mates. Hundreds of people have attended a memorial service for 22-year-old Corporal Richard Atkinson in Tasmania. Prime Minister Julia Gillard and Opposition Leader Tony Abbott also paid their respects to the fallen digger.
Richard, you are now an immortal Anzac. We're proud to have served with you, mate.
Corporal Atkinson was killed by a bomb blast in Oruzgan province earlier this month. Julia Gillard's agreement with the premiers on a health funding deal may not be fully complete. While she has all the states and territories on side now, it could all change after next month's New South Wales election.
They have a heads of agreement, but there's a whole body of detail to work through yet.
Sure, fine details have to be nutted out.
Details like how much each state gets, how many new beds, performance targets, delivery standards. The Prime Minister's promised $16 billion. The opposition says she wanted a deal at any price.
Julia Gillard was a buyer in distress. She wanted to buy an outcome at COAG.
And there's one big unknown detail. This man is likely to be New South Wales Premier next month.
We won't sign up to a deal that's going to leave New South Wales worse off.
The deal is basically Kevin Rudd's earlier offer with two big changes. The Commonwealth will no longer be the dominant funder. The states will pay 50-50 and regain control of primary health care. One thing hasn't changed though. Who to blame when things go wrong?
The buck will stop with me.
The buck stops with me.
There's one similarity she won't want to repeat. Kevin Rudd's agreement fell over because of one holdout state, Western Australia. Now New South Wales threatens to serve Julia Gillard the same medicine. The polls are already enough to make her sick. Labor's primary vote plummeting to 32%, while the two-party preferred gives the coalition a landslide lead. Mark Riley, 7 News.
Victorian flood victims will receive a $500 million boost to help rebuild their communities. The federal government's assistance package was secured by Senator Steve Fielding after he pledged his support for Julia Gillard's flood levy. The Prime Minister still needs the other independents to get the proposed levy through both houses. Melbourne's suburban councils say they're powerless to stop developers from leaving houses derelict. Dean Felton's been investigating, and Dean, it's becoming a real problem in many communities.
Mitch, we've looked at 3 derelict homes today, including this one here in East Melbourne. Often they stay that way for years, upsetting the neighbours and often frustrating the council. And we found there are many reasons why, not all of them to do with the owners. This Baldwin house is infamous among locals.
It's been like this for so many years and it's absolutely disgusting.
It's an eyesore.
But who's to blame? The owners applied again and again for redevelopment permits, but has been knocked back by council because of the heritage value of the house. The Darvilles of Ivanhoe have $1 million home and a view to match, except when they look next door. Derelict for more than 10 years, the house has become a haven for vandals and squatters.
They get in the house, they break windows and have some drug sessions, we know that.
The owner had permits to demolish and build 2 new houses, but they've been let lapse. Owners run out of money, change their minds or hit legal trouble, and councils can be caught in the middle.
Council doesn't have proactive power to make someone finish a development.
Despite complaints, Stonnington Council says this house at Malvern East doesn't qualify as unsightly, and nothing's likely to change soon. No plans have been lodged with council to develop the site. The good news here in Baldwin is that after more than a decade of wrangling between neighbours, the council and the owner, permits have finally been issued for partial demolition and reconstruction. Residents stuck next to a house of horrors should speak with the owner or the local council. Dean Felton, 7 News.
The terrorism trial of radical Muslim cleric Abu Bakr Bashir has been adjourned for another 10 days. The man known as the Smiling Assassin was in court to hear prosecutors detail the charges. He claims allegations he set up an Al-Qaeda-style militant group were just empty talk. It's the 3rd time Bashir has stood trial for terrorism, but this time police say the evidence is much stronger. The defence begins later this month. Well, it's the day romantics around the world put their affection on public show. And here in Melbourne, Valentine's Day is no different. It's very much a celebration of love.
It's the busiest day of the year at Melbourne's flower market, and today it was first in, best dressed. Roses are still the most popular, but supply is down because of recent rain.
Down by about 20%.
There were no flowers for Vanessa Plesnica. She got a diamond ring. Boyfriend Craig Withers popping the question in the city.
I'm feeling very happy but a bit shocked.
Very nervous. I think I'm still nervous at the moment, so yeah, it certainly gets the heart rate up.
There are a few nerves around this morning. Some chose the Herald Sun newspaper to propose. And newly engaged couples might want to get some advice from Jean and Charlie Green. They've been married for 70 years.
We do everything together, holidays, everything. If there's something that we can't do together, we don't do it.
And this year it seems everyone is sticking with tradition when it comes to buying their Valentine a gift. Chocolates of all flavours are, of course, walking out the door.
Sort of didn't do too well last year.
Yeah, that's my boyfriend's favourite thing, and I don't want to buy him flowers.
Alicia Grabowski, 7 News.
Ahead in 7 News, where you can find the latest speed camera locations. Also, a stinking mess, how these people are still living in a suburban sewer, and why everyone's going gaga at this year's Grammys. Victoria Police has released the latest list of speed camera locations for this week. To find out which areas will be targeted, please log on to yahoo7.com.au/news. Egypt's military rulers may have outlined their timetable to restore democracy, but many aren't convinced after there was chaos as the army moved in. Dozens of demonstrators are refusing to move from Tahrir Square, fearing that once they do, their push for democracy could stall. The military has promised elections within 6 months. Many locals and tourism operators just want the issues resolved as quickly as possible and for life in the troubled nation to return to normal. 24 hours after we told you about people in Melbourne's southeast living in a suburban sewer, they're still knee-deep in filth. Recent torrential rain has caused the problem, and despite a major pumping operation, the area remains flooded with waste.
Residents in Bangham have been forced to put up with foul-smelling, stagnant water in their streets and around their homes. They knew it smelt bad and made them sick. Now they know why. Melbourne Water has admitted at the height of the recent storms, the sewerage and stormwater system couldn't cope, bursting out of pipes in the area.
In some parts, though, because of the sheer volume of water that we were looking at, we did have some spills in some areas.
Bangham is near to the big Eastern Sewage Treatment Plant, which handles 40% of Melbourne's waste. The system backfilled and raw sewage flowed into the streets. The residents were never told. Residents here in Soden Road were simply told to avoid contact with the contaminated water. But that was more than a little difficult for those whose homes were surrounded by the filthy mess. But the council and even health department officials say they were not informed of the situation. You think someone should have told people that this water here is polluted?
Of course they should. Common sense says they should. It's sewage, it's raw sewage floating down the street.
The massive pumping operation to clear the contaminated water has been stepped up since we revealed the residents' plight last night. But it's expected to be at least a week before the bulk of the water can be cleared and more drenching rain is on the way.
It's going to go just sit on the surface. It's got nowhere to go.
Norm Beeman, 7 News.
In finance news, Australian stocks rose just over 1% to a 10-month high today. ANZ led the banks with a 2.97% gain. Miners rallied after copper prices rebounded. BHP Billiton added 90 cents, while our dollar is trading at 100.53 US cents. Keith Urban has won a 4th Grammy for Best Male Country Performance at the awards ceremony in Los Angeles. Lady Gaga made a grand entrance, arriving in a giant eggshell, then hatching to perform her new single. And Mick Jagger got the crowd on its feet with his first ever Grammy appearance. I know which one you prefer out of those two, Sandy. Sports next, another veteran swimmer's making a comeback.
Indeed he is, yes, and it's not Lady Gaga. Yeah, they do just keep coming out of retirement, Mitch. I'll have the details shortly. Also out of the NAB Cup, and the Blues hit the road. And Argy Bargy in Bangalore as Ricky Ponting gets fired up.
Australia's best mid-sized car for the 2nd year in a row is a real winner. i30. From 19990 drive away. i30, full of unexpected surprises.
Hello again. After being knocked out of the NAB Cup, the Blues are seeing red about the trial out-of-bounds rule. Capping off a weekend of condemnation, the Blues say the rule creates too much confusion.
The Blues today got out of the spotlight and headed to Jared Waite country at Vanilla.
It's just like being at school, just a bit of banter and that. But yeah, it's good to get out of Melbourne for a couple of days and give a little bit back to the communities.
But they're not so pleased about the experimental NAB Cup out-of-bounds rule, where the last to touch the ball is penalised.
It was just very confusing for players and umpires and everyone. Who did it come off? Was it in the act it was spoiling?
But it appears Mark Murphy will make the Blues smile and re-sign.
And I'm sure the club will do everything in their power to keep him, and I believe he'd wanted to be a one-club player, so I couldn't see him really going too far.
While the Blues are confident that they can re-sign Mark Murphy, speculation only mounts that Tom Scully is bound for GWS. But Demons president Jim Steins has dismissed it.
So when I heard it, I thought, oh, this can't be true. So, you know, obviously you speak to the right people and then you realise that it's just rumours.
Steins blaming the D's doomsayers.
The place that we're going, you're always going to get people that want to hold you back.
And Kevin Sheedy has also hit back at those that say his young Giants aren't big and tough enough to play in the NAB Cup just yet.
I think that if we play at our best, we're going to annoy people. And I like annoying people.
Last night, the Young Hawks proved they can play, just losing to West Coast, but beating Fremantle. Tom Brown, 7 News.
Good signs for Ricky Ponting and his little pinky ahead of the World Cup, even though his Aussie team was shown up by India in a warm-up game in Bangalore, losing by 38 runs. Ponting made a successful comeback from his broken finger, scoring 57. But most, including Michael Clarke, failed on a less than perfect pitch.
Yeah, spun a lot in the second innings. Ball didn't really come onto the bat all day, but yeah, hopefully as this tournament goes on, we'll get a few better wickets in that one.
The skipper was involved in a mid-pitch stoush with Shantha Srinath. The next warm-up is against South Africa, and that is tomorrow. Victoria, meantime, has failed in its Sheffield Shield clash against Tasmania. The Bushrangers went into the final day in a strong position, but lost by 5 wickets. Victoria's plans were scuttled by George Bailey, who scored an unbeaten 160. And Michael Klim has announced he's also making a comeback. The 33-year-old Olympic gold medalist aims to compete at next year's London Games, joining Ian Thorpe, Jeff Hugel and Libby Trickett on the comeback trail.
I'm going to have a crack. You know, I don't have any expectations whatsoever. I don't know if my body can handle it, if my wife can handle it, my children can handle it.
Klim retired from swimming back in 2007. We just need Dawn and Sam Riley, and the whole lot will be back in business.
Murray Rose will be there soon.
Murray Rose. Bad news for Collingwood. Nathan Brown suspected knee injury. That is not good news for you, I'm sorry.
No, it certainly isn't, Sandy. Thank you very much. Warmer day for Melbourne tomorrow. David Brown returns with all the details next.
People who appreciate the flame-grilled flavour and unique combination of fresh ingredients that go to make all our burgers taste so much better. It takes 2 hands to understand why the burgers are better at Hungry Jack's.
Good evening. A fine and mild day in Melbourne. Warmer tomorrow, but the odd afternoon shower is likely over the northern and eastern suburbs. Today's top temperature, there it is, 24.6, just a few minutes after 4 o'clock this afternoon. Currently in town, it's around 23 degrees, and we're expecting an overnight low of 16. From the satellite, the sky was clear over our part of the world today, but there's a lot of moisture starting to stream in from the north. In fact, with some scattered showers and storms over northern parts of New South Wales. This will start to head towards Victoria tomorrow as this trough starts to sharpen up. Just some isolated showers and thunderstorms expected at this stage, but there's plenty of rain on the way as we head towards the weekend. Take a look at this as we fast track towards the weekend now. Rain building Friday night and some, well, fairly solid falls likely throughout Victoria on Saturdays. We get lots of tropical moisture streaming across the country. Around the nation tomorrow for Brisbane, a few further showers and the odd thunderstorm likely, should reach 28 degrees. Sydney, just a few showers, 25. Chance of a storm in Adelaide tomorrow, 31. Perth, though, dry and sunny, 35 degrees. For Victoria, this is what we're expecting. Humid conditions right across the state with those isolated showers and thunderstorms developing mainly on and north of the ranges during the afternoon and into the evening. Strong wind warning has been posted for coastal waters east of Cape Patterson. For the Bay region, light and variable winds first thing tomorrow morning, but will give way to a southerly, which should increase to around 30 to 40 kilometres per hour from mid-afternoon. As for Melbourne, fine tonight, and look, in fact, it'll be fine for most of the day. Plenty of sunshine, cloud building with the risk of the odd shower or two developing over the outer eastern suburbs towards evening. Top of 31 degrees. Quick look now at that 7-day forecast. More unsettled conditions for Wednesday and Thursday. Few showers on Friday, rain on Saturday, breaking to showers on Sunday, 22. That's the latest weather, Mitch.
Thank you, David. And that's the way it is this Valentine's Day Monday, the 14th of February. Thanks for your company. Today Tonight is Next with Matt White. I'll have updates throughout the evening. For now, good night.